was born in 1955. Not an easy time to be born. There's lots of inequality around, and I suppose it carried on right up until the present day, to be perfectly honest with you. I started working as a Saturday girl when I was 15, and not long after that began working in the bank, and I paid my national insurance for a very long time. So in 2012, when I received a letter from the Department of Work and Pensions telling me that the age that I would be retiring, instead of being 60 as I had expected to for 40 plus years, I would now be retiring at the age of 66. It was quite a shock because I had just been made redundant from a job that I'd had for 13 years, which I took after having brought my 3 children up, and they'd left school and I was free to work full time again. During the time that I had my children, I had, at one point I had 3 jobs, but they were all very low paid jobs, 0 hours contracts. I had no sick pay, I had no holidays, paid holidays, and times were quite tough. You know, we didn't live in a coffee culture. We didn't have 2 cars like a lot of families do these days. We were given a car actually by my grandfather, and we were very fortunate to have that. But we didn't use it very often because we couldn't afford to run it. So yeah, time was quite tough. 3 jobs at one point just to make ends meet. So you know, when we're called the baby boomers, I think it's a little bit mean because we've worked hard all our lives, and now many of us women in our 1950s are caring for grandchildren, as I am, which I do enjoy. I absolutely love it, but that's my task in life now, along with campaigning for pension justice, because to expect us to wait a further 6 years to have what we considered was ours at 60 is just very, very cruel. I mean, my mother was 54 when she died, so she never received a pension. Neither did her mother, neither did her grandmother. All 3 of them died before they reached the age of 60. So given that, I could possibly be the 4th generation. I've got another 3 years to go yet before I'm 66, who hasn't had a pension at all. The attempts of the All Party Political Group to help us has been tremendous, and they've been trying to present a bill to Parliament, which I think once it is actually presented, if it is eventually presented, they will win. They will win the vote, and the government will be forced to reconsider what they've done and try and make fair transitional payments to the women so terribly badly affected. I feel that we're being deliberately silenced, constantly knocked back by a government who see virtually everything else as more important. These people in there are afraid to allow our bill to be read because they know damn well that we'll have support from all parties. They'll wipe the floor with them, and then they'll have to admit that this massive blunder needs to be rectified. Never mind about laying blame for it. They do lie, trying to make out that it's because we're all living longer. Academics have proven that to be incorrect. and also many other countries who are far poorer than our country, which is one of the richest countries in the world, are actually reducing pension age. So I don't see any justification in that. What they're doing to us. They know how it's affected the women born in the 1950s, and they're the present government, and it is they who have the power to sort this out this mess. They're asking women to, they've asked women to put forward their ideas of how they can rectify it, and we pay their wages, we put them there in their positions as members of Parliament. It's up to them really to come up with some sort of a solution. There were blunders made, and they know that. And women are having to sell their hard-earned family homes simply to be able to live. They're being forced to visit food banks and endure the wrath of the younger generation, which the government are hell-bent on turning against us by telling them that we're baby boomers and that we've used up all the money, and it's just not true. We've had a tough life. We were young once. You know, every time I hear a budget being read out, I hear this is a budget for the next generation, for people's futures. Well, we're all here. This is the here and now. We all have a future, not just the young. We have a future as well. And it's just been ripped away from us. Well, we're living in limbo. Many of us are living in limbo for 6 long years. And at our time of life, it's terribly cruel. It really is terribly cruel. And what they've conveniently failed to remember is the fact that we were the younger generation. We suffered unequal pay, 18% interest rates, 0 hours contract resulting in no company pensions. You see, they say it's in the name of equality as well, but we've never had equality, and men have had the opportunity to carry on work, whilst many women have given up work. Men have had the opportunity to have full-time employment, which resulted in them having company pensions. No company pensions for the likes of me. I have no company pension. I actually am living on my savings and a small inheritance I had from my father, who was hoping to have helped me enjoy my retirement when it came to leaving it to me, because he wanted to make sure that we were comfortably off because of what had happened to my mother. We contributed to pensions of those who went before us with no issues whatsoever. And yet the youngsters, I'm continually having messages from them saying, why should they keep us? Why should they keep us? I kept those who went before me. I had no issues with it because I knew one day it would be my turn. During our campaign, we've discovered this, a boast from George Osborne to the Economic Club of New York in December 2014. In the UK, we've saved £500 billion over the next 50 years by setting out a timetable for future increases to the state pension age. The single biggest saving we have made. Saving. He sat there preening himself, proud that he had just announced plans to rob the most vulnerable section of society in order to fund such things as his next beauty, which was this: and from April 2015, our corporation tax rate will reduce to 20%, the lowest in the G20, down from 28% rate we inherited. It makes you wonder if he's not a direct descendant of the Sheriff of Nottingham. It's almost a remake of the film Logan's Run. We are all, men and women, the lowest paid pensioners in Europe. We are being robbed, and it's having a knock-on effect. The younger generation will feel the effects of this very soon. They need to get behind us and not listen to the propaganda being put about by blaming us for it. Many of us have now joined forces. Back to 60, WASPI, 63 is the new 60, pension reform group, we paid in, you paid out, to name but a few. My own group, Women of Wales. We've travelled far and wide trying to spread the word, trying to teach people that we're not money grabbers, we're not trying to do anything that we feel we deserve. We're not trying to get anything we don't feel we deserve. We just wish that the government would sit up and listen to us. We put those people in their seats. They're in Westminster. We travelled there just a couple of weeks ago and stopped the traffic in the middle of the road in an attempt to just be seen. 2 hours we stopped the traffic, but it wasn't broadcast on any of the BBC programmes. In fact, the newsreaders were stuck in that traffic. In an attempt to get to work, they called out the police. They had to go to a substitute studio, but they put it about that there was a technical hitch. There was no technical hitch. It was because we were there stopping the traffic in an attempt to try and raise awareness to our plight. And then again, last week in Westminster, I, along with quite a number of other ladies from various groups, went up again to Westminster to listen to the budget. We were fortunate enough to get seats in the Strangers Gallery to listen, and we sat quietly listening to it in the hope that we would be considered in his budget, but the Chancellor yet again ignored our plight. So we decided, right, enough is enough, so we stood up. We stood up and we shouted, "Shame on you, shame on you," at the top of our voices. It was a very emotional moment. I was crying, so were many others, and those around us were just dumbstruck at what we were doing. There were obviously plainclothes policemen around, and they just stood watching us along with the in-house security, who had been watching us whilst we sat there, worried to death about what we had up our sleeves, so to speak. Waspy sashes. My t-shirt, I was underneath my jumper, and I ripped my jumper off, and we stood there screaming and shouting. And then Ian Blackford started clapping us, and so did the rest of the SNP, followed by the Labour Party, followed by all of the opposition parties. And then they stood up, and we just were absolutely amazed by the support that they showed us whilst we stood there desperately trying to get attention. So it has been highlighted a little bit more since, but we have still got a long way to go, I feel. We've got a judicial review on the 30th of November, and we've also got, I believe, on the 29th of November, another reading of, possible reading of the APPG bill, but I'm told it's, I think, number 39 on the agenda. They keep putting it right down on the bottom of the agenda in order that it would be pulled again and they won't have to sit and listen and vote, because if they do vote, the vote will go our way for sure. So it's like banging our heads up against a brick wall. We desperately need people to come back us, and there's been Fraser Badams has made a single. It's reached number, I believe, 58 in the UK charts, number 1 in the Amazon sales, with a wonderful video of us whilst we were up in London the day that we stopped the traffic. So many people are behind us, but not the ones we need to be behind us. We need the government to be behind us. We need the government to listen to us and to realise we're not waiting 18 months. We're far too old to go out and find ourselves apprenticeships. We're waiting 6 years, which is a very long time at our time of life, and we would very much appreciate help. That's it.